Hi everyone, it's Miss Saw, Head of English at King Alfred's Academy. I'm here with your final lesson of the term, which is the feedback lesson on the work that we've been doing on writing a comparative analysis of power and conflict poetry. By the end of this week's lesson, we will have implemented the targets from your whole class feedback sheet that your teacher will have provided on Show My Homework into a new comparative analysis of two poems. And this time you have a bit of a choice. There are 3 questions which name pairs of poems that you can choose from. And this ties in with last week's work on Show My Homework, where you started looking about how to compare different pairs of poems on different themes. When you've finished, we'd like you to submit your work demonstrating where you've implemented your targets from the whole class feedback sheet onto Show My Homework, so that we can see it and give you credit for your work and just double check that you're getting the idea of how to implement the targets that were identified as the key areas for your class. So before we start, what I want to do is show you a model, a Waggle if you like, analytical comparison, which will demonstrate all the possible targets your class may have been set on their Show My Homework feedback sheet. But what I want you to do is have had a look at the whole class feedback sheet that your teacher has given you and just focus on the 3 or so targets that your teacher has identified for your class, and just sort of find where those are implemented in this Waggle so you can see how to do them. So this Waggle goes over 3 slides, so bear with me. So this is the main part of the first paragraph about the first poem in the comparison. So what I've tried to do here is draw arrows to the bit of the paragraph that demonstrates where each possible target you might have been set has been implemented in this paragraph. So what you need to do is watch the video for this slide or the next 2 and try and identify where your 3 class targets are in this Waggle. So I'm not going to read it to you. You can pause the video and have a read through, likewise for the next 2 slides as well, so that you can find where your whole class targets are implemented in this Waggle. Okay, so hopefully you have now seen on the Waggle where your whole class targets have been implemented. So you should have read through the whole class feedback sheet in its entirety. So reading what went well for your class, some shout outs to certain individuals. There's some good examples of what went well, so good example sentences, and then the targets that we're going to try and implement in a new piece of writing today. So this is the aim of this lesson, is to practice implementing the targets into a piece of writing to improve our writing further when we're writing analytically and comparatively. So I am going to give you a choice of 3 questions and you are going to answer one of them by writing a comparative analysis. Each question names 2 poems and a theme that these 2 poems explore. So what I will do is show you these questions at the end of this video. You need to pick one of these, and then the starting point is to do one of our Venn diagrams, as we've done before, thinking about what are the similar ideas expressed in the 2 poems on this theme, and then what ideas are expressed in the first poem that maybe are different or in contrast to the second poem, and likewise what ideas are expressed in the second poem that are different or in contrast to the ones in the first. So when you've decided on your question, when we get to the end of this video, you will then rewind this video and you can copy this Venn diagram, and that's the first point that you want to start with when planning your new comparative analysis. So this is here for you when you're ready, when you've picked the question you're going to answer. Likewise then, I'm just going to remind you of the steps of how to write a comparative analysis. So step one, if you remember, is to just write a detailed analytical paragraph where we use the ingredients of Squiced about an idea that's expressed in the first poem that you could say is either a similar idea or contrasting idea to the ideas expressed in the second poem. So that's step one. You're going to write one straightforward analytical paragraph using the ingredients of Squiced on the first poem. Okay. Step two then is to write a detailed analytical paragraph about the ideas expressed in the second poem that you could say are either similar or in contrast to the first idea you've already written about. In this, obviously in your statement, you're going to need to make it clear that the idea you're writing about is either similar or in contrast to the one you've just written about in poem one. And then as you go through the ingredients of Squiced in your analytical paragraph, in particular thinking about your inference, connotations and effects part of Squiced, you might want to try and link how the implied ideas and effects in the second poem are either similar or in contrast to the implied ideas and effects in the first poem. So that's all modelled in the Waggle that I've just shown you. So you can rewind the video and have a look at that, remembering that the aim of this is to be implementing your whole class feedback targets into a new piece of writing comparative analysis. So if you need this, the next part of the video takes you step by step to build your analytical paragraphs about the first poem and then the second one, which is a comparative analytical paragraph. So I'm not really going to talk much through these slides. I'm just going to show them to you. And what you can do once you've decided the question that you want to answer and you've done your Venn diagram of ideas is you can then watch this and pause this step by step to build your paragraphs if that would be useful, thinking about where to implement your whole class targets. So these are just reminders of how to write each part of Squiced step by step. So as I say, you can use this and watch this as much as you like, pausing, I would, at each step. And here's helpful guidance for step two, which is writing the comparative analytical paragraph where we're making the links back to the first poem whilst writing about the second one. So again, it's just step-by-step guidance if you need it, and you can rewind the video as much as you like and pause at each step to help you build your paragraph. So if you remember, the comparative statement is ever so slightly different in the second paragraph because you're sort of showing whether the idea in the second poem is similar or in contrast to the idea in the first poem, trying to show why. Quote section's the same. Writing a successful inference is also pretty much the same as you would in any analytical paragraph. It's where we're then starting to go into connotations and effects that we need to be thinking about how we link what we're saying back to the first poem as well. And then just as a reminder, if you remember the concluding development section of the second paragraph of your comparative analysis is where you basically do a comparative conclusion. So you state what both poets are clearly trying to demonstrate through the quotes you've provided, and then sort of explaining, are they demonstrating the same thing? That's what they were aiming to do. Or are they demonstrating something that's slightly contrasting in ideas? So they might be both exploring how powerful nature is, but one might be showing that it is deadly, whereas another might be showing it's terrifying, for instance. And don't forget to make sure that what you are saying still supports and links to the original statements, the start of each of the paragraphs that you've written as well. So we're now on to the questions to pick from. So I've given you 3 to pick from, so it's kind of a freer choice. You can decide which poems you feel most confident with, on which themes in particular as well. So the first question you could pick is compare how poets present ideas about the effects of conflict in Remains by Armitage and Bayonet Charge by Hughes. Or you could pick number 2, which is compare how poets present ideas about the power of nature in Exposure by Owen and Extract from the Prelude by Wordsworth. Or finally, number 3, compare how poets present ideas about the power of man in London by Blake and My Last Duchess by Browning. So my advice is have a think, maybe go back through your notes from this term and last about these poems and think about which ones you feel quite confident writing about. Have your notes in particular about the quotes and ideas in front of you, and then pick which question you want to answer. I'd write down that question so you've got it in front of you. Make sure you've got your quotes from the 2 poems named in front of you as well, and then go all the way back to the beginning or near the beginning where that Venn diagram is and work your way through planning the ideas, what are similar, what are different, and then I would then work your way through writing the analytical squiced paragraphs about the first poem and then the second poem. Once you have done that, please do upload your work onto Show My Homework one final time, so that we can see what you've done and sort of hopefully see where you have actively implemented the whole class feedback target, which will inevitably improve your work. As you will have seen at the beginning of the video and on Show My Homework as well, this work is due for Friday, the 17th, because that is the last day of term. So please do bear that in mind as well. I haven't set any GCSE pods or anything like that this week. It's solely to implement your whole class feedback. We have set you a little bit of work over the summer to look at the videos of 3 other poems. So we've got Poppies, we've got Ozymandias, and we've got Storm on the Island. Again, it's just watching the videos we've made. They're about 10 minutes each. So over the 6 weeks, it's not a lot to do, but it's just to familiarise yourself with 3 of the other poems that are in the collection that we haven't yet looked at, and to know the key quotes or start to look at the key quotes for those. As an extension, I've set the GCSE pods, but they are extensions. You do not have to do that. But please do have a look at the videos on YouTube that we have made about those 3 poems. This would be very, very useful for you to know those poems as well, as we do need to know all of the 15 poems eventually in the Power and Conflict anthology collection that we're studying for our GCSE. Okay, guys, I'm going to stop talking now. So please do have a think about which question you want to do. And then once you've picked that, find your notes on the quotes and the ideas for those 2 poems, and then rewind to the Venn diagram and work your way through building your new comparative analysis, remembering implementing your whole class feedback targets. It's been an absolute pleasure, guys. Thank you very much. And if I don't see you in school, do please have a lovely summer. Stay safe. And we are very much looking forward to seeing you, hopefully in person, come September. All right. Thanks very much. Bye.